Samach Amud Beis, but let's go over the Gemara that we learned yesterday on 60A. So the Gemara yesterday, we learned a Brisa, Tana Rabbanan, that a person who enters a bathhouse has a certain bracha to say, which basically tells us how in the olden days, at least the bathhouse were complicated, dangerous, the way they were built. And it was almost like a sakana. It was somewhat of a danger to use the bathhouse. Obviously, it wasn't too much of a danger. People did it. People, you had to take showers and stuff, and so on. But there was some level of danger involved that required a bracha, and so there was a certain prayer that was said about Yehi Ratzain Milfanecha Hashem Alekai Shetatzileni Mizeh, that daven to Hashem that he should save you from this and nothing bad should happen. And the Gemara mentioned this prayer that you would continue to say along after you finished that sentence. You would add another sentence to it, which was that if I die, my death should be an atonement for my sins, which seemed a little shocking. That's like such a dangerous thing. This bathhouse that you even mentioned. Well, what should happen is almost like before you have a medical procedure, they make you sign a living will. Here also, they sort of it's almost like a prayer. If you're like discussing what will happen. So Abaye says, don't say such a thing, because you don't want to open your mouth up to Satan, that he's going to look into you, that maybe you deserve to die. And Reish Lakish says a similar thing. Al Yiftach Pivla Rabbi Yossi, they learned in the name of Rabbi Yossi, a brisa, that the person shouldn't open their mouth up to Satan. So, and they bring a pasuk about Sedoim, that when the Yidden considered them, they mentioned Sedoim, that they compared themselves to Sedoim and Amorah. So it ended up that there was a nevuah that the Navi received regarding calling them, that in the nevuah he's called, the Yidden are called Sedoim and Amorah. So that's the story of it's a nevuah in Yeshaya. You see there how opening your mouth up to the Satan could cause problems. So basically, the conclusion was, so don't add that final sentence. And then when a person leaves a bathhouse, he's supposed to say a Moida Ani prayer. Moida Ani Levanecha Hashem Lekai Shehitzaltani Min Ha'or, that you saved me from the fire. And then it mentions the story of how dangerous it was, that Rebbe Vo actually went up to a bathhouse and the whole floor collapsed, and a miracle happened, that he stood on top of a pillar and he saved 101 people with his arm or his leg. One of his limbs basically was holding on to some people, and then they held on to others, and ultimately it saved all these people. And Rebbe Vo said, this is the meaning of Revacha, that when you leave, you should thank Hashem that you left peacefully. Now, I see on the commentary over here, he brings that the way it was built, the fire could cause that the floor would get ruined and cause it to collapse. The way it was built, the fire would boil the water, and the fire would cause the floor to I guess get weakened. And nowadays, of course, we don't have this issue. So we don't say this bracha. Now, he does bring interesting from the Mishnah Berurah that there are other dangers of hot water, and the Mishnah Berurah wonders why we don't say it for these other situations. Maybe we should say a certain prayer for other dangers. For example, in the I guess they used to be when they would wash the clothes, and they would boil water on the stove, and then I guess take it off and put it on the floor and mix it and whatever. So maybe that would be an example of what the Mishnah Berurah was talking about. Nowadays, of course, we have washing machines, but anyway, the fact is, it's not common to say. We don't know people who say this prayer. Then the Gemara talked about person who's going to bloodlet, and there's a certain prayer Yehid Ratzain that it should be for refuah. And interestingly, it mentions this sentence also at the end that is a little surprising. And of course, Abaye jumps up again and says, "Don't say this sentence either." So the previous Gemara, Abaye was the one who says you shouldn't say that final sentence. Here also, Abaye seems to be the one to remove, to edit the prayer. He says, "Don't say that final sentence." The final sentence was, "Ein darkon shel bnei adam l'rapos ela shenag," that people, the way of people is not to heal, but to get healings even by doctors, but to be involved with medicine, but that is the custom. So Abaye says, don't say that, because the law is that that we learn in the Torah from an extra word, Verapa Yerape, there's an extra word there, which basically teaches that a doctor has the right to heal even a sickness that came directly from Hashem, was not initiated by a human. Even such a sickness, the doctor has the right to heal, which means you have the right to go to the doctor, and you don't need to explain that now that this is the way people do things, and therefore I am going to the doctor. In other words, the actual prayer implied maybe it's wrong to go to a doctor, but that's what everyone does, and the people are, we've reached a level that we need to rely on natural ways. Of course, we know everything comes from Hashem, but we have to do things in a natural way, and therefore I'm going to the doctor. So it's almost like an explanation of why. How do I dare go to a doctor? Abaye says, no, you don't say that, because we follow the view of Rabbi Yishmael, that the base medrash of Rabbi Yishmael, that this is acceptable, this is the right thing to do. And not only is it the right thing to do, according to many opinions, this is the obligation to do, because a person is obligated to stay healthy. So what we see in this Gemara is that there seems to have been this question as to going to doctors. Is that negate? Does that negate the fact that God is making someone sick, and then you're going to a doctor to go heal it, go sort of like against God? God wanted a person to be sick, and you're going to a doctor to heal it. So the Gemara seems to have been dealing with this. Of course, this argument developed further, or I shouldn't say developed, but continued further along the different opinions in the commentaries of the Gemara, because there are different views, a few extreme views, that maybe righteous people shouldn't go to doctors, and they should rely on Hashem to heal them, and possibly that's the appropriate thing. That's the way things should be in the ideal world, in the utopian world. But of course, the accepted view, the accepted Jewish view, is that the Torah permits a doctor to heal. That means that we have an obligation to do what's correct according to the laws of nature, and follow the doctor. And as course, that doesn't negate Hashem. Hashem is the one healing, but where you're using the natural method to allow God's blessing to manifest itself. So God's blessing will manifest itself in the hands of the doctor. So the doctor is not healing you. The medicine is not healing you. It's God's blessing is manifesting itself in the medicine and in the doctor, in the doctor, and ultimately you are getting healed. But what we do see in the Gemara is that there was this concept that maybe this is not the ideal way to do things. Then the Gemara says that at the when a person leaves this bloodletting, he would say this bracha roifei chinam, or as we said yesterday, there are some other versions of how it should be said. Not roifei chinam, that blessed are you Hashem who heals for free, but blessed are you Hashem who is roifei cholim, who heals the sick, or roifei chayim, who heals the living. And so that would be the end bracha. Again, we don't say really this this bracha with a conclusion. What we do say is, like when a person takes medicine, he says Yid Ratzain Shia Zeli LaRafua, that this should actually heal, it should work. And that is, but we don't, but the bracha of Raifei Chinam, that would be the end, the conclusion of this prayer. It could be that it was only established on bloodletting. So nowadays we don't do this bloodletting. Bloodletting was a way in the olden days. They thought that that's the way to heal someone, is if you let them bleed. That sort of like is a healing for the body. Body has too much blood, and you bloodlet, and that would be that would be healthy for the body. Now it's probably the opposite. Nowadays we probably think that it's an issue. You have you don't have enough red blood. So if you bloodlet, it's not really good for the body. Yes, Ben.
I wanted to say, my father told me that he did twice bloodletting, because they didn't have medications in Russia at that time, or doctors, not enough. But even about 40 years ago, I remember in England, they still made a big deal about leeches, and they started growing the leeches because people wanted it for bloodletting. Not that long ago.
That's very interesting. I didn't know that. I didn't know that at all, that it was so popular until lately.
In Britain, all of a sudden it became popular again. I don't know why.
Okay.
Rabbi.
Yes, David.
Yeah, what they're able to do with the leeches,
you just we can't hear you, David. David, you still there? David, somehow your sound ended. We don't hear you. Okay, so we have this this bracha. Oh, what did you say, David? David? Again, we lost you. Okay, so the bracha of Raifei Chinam, that end bracha seems to have been specifically established on bloodletting, and therefore it's not recited anymore. Even though we do say the beginning part when you take medicine. Okay, and that was the end of 60A, and then we turned to 60B, and 60B spoke about the angels that travel with us wherever we go, as it says, Ki malachav yitzav elach. Hashem sends his angels to us. So, of course, we don't see the angels, but there are angels that are walking around with us, and I guess protecting us, to guard us in all of our ways. So these angels that are always with us, when a person enters the bathroom, you want them to wait outside, and they shouldn't have to humiliate themselves, so to speak, by entering. So you mention to them, Hiskabdu mechubadim. There's a certain prayer you tell them that may your honor be safe, and not your holy angels that care for your keep your honor in its you should be honored and not have to enter. So give honor to Hashem and leave me until I enter, and then I will come back to you. Now Abaye says, don't say the word leave me, because they might actually leave you. Don't say or let go of me. They might end up, they might take off. Rather, you should say, Shimruni, Shimruni, either protect me, or Shimruni could probably means protect. It could mean wait for me, but Shimruni is Runi is like support me, or help me, aid me. Samchuni, support me, and Hamtinuli, wait for me until I enter and I leave, because this is unfortunately like the way of humans. We have to use a bathroom, and please wait for me, tell the angels. And when a person leaves the bathroom, he says this bracha, which we say, of course, it's a very special bracha, and it acknowledges and thanks Hashem and shows gratitude for Hashem, how he created the human body in such a miraculous way. Created man with chachma, with wisdom. And the way Rashi understands it is that he created us with holes, orifices, and nevertheless, the air that we need stays inside, even though there's orifices. And he created these orifices in chalulim, which are hollows. The hollows, Rashi tells us, is the different limbs it refers to, the heart, the stomach, the intestines. And Goloi v'yadua, it's known before the throne of Hashem, your throne, that if one of them opens, meaning one of the hollows opens, or if one of the orifices closes, we would not be able to stand before you. And how do you end this? And here we had Rav says Reifei Cholim, Shmuel says you can't end it Reifei Cholim, heals the sick. Well, every time you go to the bathroom, you're going to say, Blessed are you, Hashem, who heals the sick. It means every person is sick. So Shmuel calls Rav, he says, Abba, Father, you calling everyone sick? Now, there are a few reasons why he calls him Abba. One is because Shmuel had respect for Rav, and that was a term used for respect. Another reason why Rav is called Abba is because what was Rav's real name? Rav's name was actually Abba.
That's cool.
So because of that, Shmuel called him Abba. That was actually his name. And this is a little hint to who Rav was. We call him Rabbi Rav, and he was obviously a great scholar, Rav Tanu Palag. He was like in the league of the Tanoim of the earlier rabbis. But the fact is, what was his real name? His real name was Abba. And now, so he tells him, you make everyone sick. You don't say Reifei Cholim, you say Reifei Chobas. Hashem heals all flesh. And Rav Shesha says, Mafli Lasos, he does wonders. And what does this refer to? So the way Rashi seems to learn it is the same concept of Chachma, that he created us with wisdom, with his wisdom, and the Mafli Lasos is sort of like a similar idea, that are the same, that it's wondrous how the body could handle all these orifices, and yet keep the spirit stays inside, and this is Pliya v'chachma. This is wondrous. And Rav Papa then says, so let's say both mafli lasis and reifei chol basar, and so you put it together, reifei chol basar, mafli lasis. Now, Taisha says that he created a man with chachma learns a little differently than Rashi. This is the top Taisvis on this page. That Taisvis brings a medrash, and he says that Hashem created us with wisdom means that he created us that our meal is prepared, that Hashem prepared a meal before he created us. What does that mean? There's vegetation, there's first created all the other things, and then he created humans. So we're created afterwards. Why? Because he created us with wisdom that first there is mezainas, we have our sustenance there before he created us. That's why he created us on Erev Shabbos, that we should enter the Suda Miyad, we enter right away to a meal, meaning after everything else was created. And that fits right in with creating us that we need, we need to have food. And ultimately that food is that the body is able to separate the waste from what's needed for the body. In other words, that's the beginning of the bracha, is thanking Hashem for creating us in a way that we have the meal, and that he created our body that it can digest the meal properly. And really what this medrash is hinting to maybe is, as I saw one of the commentaries mentions this, is that a person, not only is he created after all the other, after all of his necessities, his sustenance, but even a child is created, is born, that his mother has milk to breastfeed him. So in other words, a child is created, but the mother is already ready to, in other words, Hashem creates a person in a way that their food, their meal is prepared for them. It's not like they have to wait for dinner, is not going to be ready until a certain time. It doesn't work that way. When Hashem creates a child, the mother is already there, ready to breastfeed. So that's the idea that Hashem created us b'chachma, with wisdom, and then we say this bracha of Asher Yotzar and Reifei Chol Basar Mafli Lasei. So again, Rashi had his understanding of the chachma. Taisvis has his understanding. There is another explanation really of what Asher Yotzar Adam b'chachma means. Hashem created us with his chachma, but he created humans that we have chachma. Actually, this is the way Rashi and Taisa learn is Hashem's chachma. He created us, in his in a wise way, but then there's also created us that we have chachma. So that would be another explanation. Yes, Ben.
Yeah, well, Rashi is not completely right when he says that the air.
You can't say that Rashi is not right, but you could say I don't understand Rashi.
Not completely right.
No, you have to say I don't understand Rashi.
Okay, I don't understand Rashi because the air doesn't stay in us. The air only goes into the lung and out. That's why we are breathing. So you breathe so often that the air changes constantly. It goes into the lung and out of the lung. It doesn't get into the rest of the body where the other orifices are. So
maybe he means the soul. The ruach maybe means like the soul, not the physical air. Or I don't know. I'm not. I was thinking about that as well, but I wasn't exactly sure how to translate this, especially if you go to medical school. Maybe you have a better. You could maybe.
The oxygen, the lung takes out some of the oxygen or whatever it needs and puts it in your blood. But not air. Air is not staying in you.
Right.
Anyhow.
I hear what you're saying. I hear the question. I was thinking about it myself. I don't know if anyone, maybe of our group, maybe could help us a little. Yes, David.
Yeah, the air that you breathe goes into your lungs. It oxygenates. It fills the blood with oxygen, and that oxygen spreads throughout the entire body.
Right.
So I guess I guess what Rashi's saying is that it's surprising what the Gemara is saying, but really is that that's miraculous that the air can actually spread throughout the body and it doesn't fall out from these orifices.
Yeah, it stays where it's supposed to be.
Something along those lines.
What I was going to say before, Rabbi, I was in the car and we went under a bridge. So they use leeches in some hospitals. They sterilize the leeches. They test them for viruses and bacteria. So they're in an antibacterial surrounding. They're raised and bred in the hospital. And they take these leeches and they put them on certain areas of the body that are swollen, that are not supposed to be, where there's edema, there's a buildup of fluid. So for instance, let's say they do an operation on a person's hand. And after the operation, the blood circulation is very weak and it starts to swell. So the leeches will suck out the extra fluid and that will encourage the circulation to be more normal, because it'll take away the swelling, and the swelling slows down the circulation. So
interesting. So
I
they
think
use it nowadays, you're saying?
Yeah, I'm not sure how many hospitals or which hospitals, but there are definitely hospitals that are using this, and it's a way of removing like what they call localized edema, which is swelling in a particular area, and that'll reduce the swelling, which will normalize the circulation.
It reduces the pressure in that spot, and then the circulation can continue.
Right. Also, sometimes they would use leeches for to bring down the blood. If a person has high blood pressure, there may be too much fluid, and they can either use something like a diuretic, like Lasix, like a water pill that'll take out the extra fluid, and sometimes they would use leeches to remove some of the extra fluid. And one more thing with this, women are less prone to a lot of these blood pressure problems because they have periods, and their periods allow the excess blood to go out, which men don't have that.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Nurse. That's really good.
Rabbi.
Yes, Moshe.
Yeah, well, years ago, like during the time of the Shakespearean period, I don't know if anybody's read any Shakespearean books. They used to put leeches on people to deal with, to deal with the melancholy behavior, the depression, to deal with depression. That's what it was basically used for.
Okay. Interesting. Okay, we got all these different ideas of the leeches. In any event, there used to be a bracha. I guess if someone does it nowadays, maybe they should say this bracha then about the leeches. There's a lahakiz dam. If the rabbis establish this bracha, that's a very interesting thing now. Maybe this bracha should be reinstated. It's probably not even in the Brochos books, they because it's so not common. But that's interesting if it's becoming more
what I
popular.
started.
Got to add this bracha to the siddur.
Yeah.
If a person thinks that some animals were created for no purpose and no reason, a person would think leeches are like that, because originally leeches would just suck onto a person and they would just suck their blood out. So at first glance, it didn't have any beneficial effect. Then they found the beneficial effect. So nothing Hashem creates is for no reason.
That's really amazing. Okay.
I have a question for you.
Yeah, sure.
When it says ruach kol basar, so you originally said, or you originally thought that meant the soul. The word kol basar includes animals as well, correct?
1 second. Reifei chol basar mafli lases. You're saying Rashi
I'm
talking
trying,
about the
you know,
mafli?
I'm trying to understand whether the word ruach itself is whether it means air or soul.
I mean, it probably means air because the Rashi is trying to give us a physical example. I was just trying to figure out what, how that works because you do breathe in and out. So what does it mean that it could also mean, when you breathe in, why doesn't the air fall out until you breathe it out? I guess there could be different ways of answering the question that Ben asked. But I of course, if you know medicine, it's a lot easier. But then I threw the idea that ruach also does have there's 5 levels to the soul: nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, yechida. So maybe there's some concept of the ruach, but no, that's probably not a correct shot. I should take that back. The simple meaning of Rashi is that it's the physical breath that somehow it stays inside, even though the person has orifices. So that's the simple understanding for sure. But you were wondering what about an animal? Is that what you're going to say?
No, I'm saying, no, the expression kol basar, what does it include? Is it just human beings, or does it mean all living
things?
All living things.
Right,
so
probably, yeah.
If that were the case, then you can't define ruach as a soul because it involves the animal. So
right. Okay, good.
It has to mean air.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Okay, that's a good point. It would seem that the animals have a soul, but not the level of ruach, probably, right? They only have nefesh. Makes sense. Good point. Yes, David, did you want to say something? Okay. All right. So we're up to the next Gemara here, page 60b. 60b. We're about, let's see, maybe about 20 lines from the top.
Hanichnas
lishon. Yes. Hanichnas lishon al mitase. A person who enters to sleep on their bed. Omer, he should say, Mishema Yisrael, from the Shema Yisrael until Ad Vahaya Im Shamaya, until Vahaya Im Shamaya. Now,
so that's the first paragraph.
Now, right, it doesn't mean in the Torah, if you would say from Shema till Vahaya Im Shamaya, that would be you would be reciting a whole parsha, because Shema is in Vaschanan and Vahaya Im Shamaya is in Akev. So you would end up saying the whole from Vaschanan till Akev. It means in the Shema prayer, you would say from Shema until the second paragraph, till Vahaya Im Shamaya. Now, interestingly enough, I don't know if you remember, some of you were with me from the beginning. We had in the beginning of the Gemara, the first page, we had a whole discussion there that people who daven Ma'ariv early, so Rashi said it's not a problem because they will say the Shema on their bed when they go to sleep. So it's okay. They said Shema early. And one of the questions Taisvis asked in the page 1 was, if you say Shema, you say Shema later when you're on your bed, but you're only saying the first paragraph. What about the other paragraphs? So anyway, this brisa, or this statement, I should say, from the Gemara, this seems to mention this idea that maybe that you only say the first paragraph of the Shema. Now, which seems to exclude the second paragraph, and and this seems a little surprising according to Rashi's view, that you could say Shema early and it's not a problem. In other words, the Gemara had discussed that, the commentaries had discussed that, how to deal with Rashi. Now, the common understanding is that maybe you should say all three. If you daven early, you should say all three, all three parshios. In other words, maybe to say all three or at least two. Now, there is an opinion that says you have to say Shema and V'hayim Shemaya. And that opinion learns whenever it says until V'hayim Shemaya could mean until and including. Or it could be he had a different version that Shema and V'hayim Shemaya. So the first two, there are opinions to say the first two parshios. There are opinions to say all three. I'm not exactly sure how all three would fit, because the Gemara here seems to imply only the first one, or maybe the first and the second. Again, there was a Gemara we learned before that whenever the Gemara or Mishnah says until, does until mean until and including, or does it mean until but not including? And of course, in English, until means until but not including. But in Hebrew, sometimes ad could mean until and include, like through, does it mean until or does it mean through? So in any event, the Gemara here says that the person who goes to sleep should say the first paragraph of Shema, at least a simple understanding is the first paragraph of Shema. And he says, blessed is Hashem who drops the ropes of sleep on my eyes, and or portions of sleep on my eyes, the usnuma ala fapai, and sleep on my eyelids, umeir leishoin bas oyen, and he
illuminates the pupil of the eye.
He illuminates, thank you. He illuminates the pupil of the eye, which I believe means when he wakes up.
I think the Ishon is the pupil of the eye.
I think it means when he wakes up, he illuminates the pupil of the eye. Yehi Ratzain Mofanecha, may it be your will. Hashem Alekai, Hashem my God, Shetashtivenu L'Shalom, Shetashtiveni L'Shalom, should let me sleep in peace. V'sein Chelki B'Seira Secha, and put my portion in your Torah, which is interesting that it's you're going to sleep. So what does that mean? You're putting my portion in your Torah. V'sargileni Lidei Mitzvah, and have me used to get me rugil. Rugil is to be familiar, used to doing, to coming, lead me to mitzvahs, and which means that I'm going to sleep. Basically, the answer to answer my question, why does it say put my portion in your Torah, is because I'm going to sleep in order to have the energy to learn Torah and do mitzvahs. And it's not because I'm slacking off, but rather it's because I am doing this as a necessity in order to be able to learn Torah and do mitzvahs. And don't bring me to sin, to another type of to mistaken sin, not a purpose sin, not to be tested, because a person should never want to get tested, as we learned with David HaMelech. He wanted a test and then he failed. We should never want to be tested. I should come to embarrassment. May my good inclination rule over me. May my evil inclination not rule over me. And may I be saved, save me from a bad happening, from a bad occurrence, from bad sicknesses, and don't confuse me with bad dreams and bad hirhurim royim, bad thoughts. In other words, I shouldn't have any sinful thoughts, even in a dream. And don't bewilder me is probably a better word, with bad dreams and bad thoughts and impure thoughts. And who say, hey, mitasi shleima lefanecha, may my bed be complete before you, meaning that my children should not be wicked. And there shouldn't be any psul in Resha, no wickedness, no Rasha, and no psul, no blemish in my children. And shine my eyes lest I die. In other words, protect me from death. And the conclusion of this bracha is Baruch Ata Hashem, blessed are you Hashem, Hameir liyolam kuloi b'chvoidai. He shines the whole world with his honor. Now, which basically is referring to when he wakes up, that the whole world, Hashem brings light to the entire world. So that's the bracha of Hamapil. Of course, there's different slightly different versions that I believe all the Sidurim have. It might be slightly different than the actual wording here, but it's approximately the same. The Hamapil Chevle Sheina Alina is a bracha. It's a whole question of, is this bracha a bracha thanking Hashem or praising Hashem, I should say, or is it a actual bracha on sleeping? If it's a bracha on sleeping, you would not be allowed to talk afterwards. You say this bracha and you're supposed to go straight to sleep, which is the common way people recite this bracha, is that it's meant to be, right before you go to sleep, you recite this bracha. But there is one view that says that this bracha is more of a praise to Hashem than actually on your specific sleep. And if it's just a praise to Hashem, that would give you room to say it, and then you could talk afterwards or whatever. It's not like a bracha on your sleep. It's like if you make a bracha on wine, you're not allowed to interrupt. You have to drink it right away. If you make a bracha on your sleep, you have to go to sleep right away. But if it's not a bracha on your sleep, if it's just a bracha praising Hashem, it's a bracha of praise, then it's that Hashem brings sleep to people and so on. So then it wouldn't be exactly a bracha that you would not be allowed to interrupt. So this is of course, discussion, and it's a big issue, because what do people do if they're not sure if they're going to fall asleep? So there have been. There seems to be some type of a group of people that don't say this bracha because they're nervous. If they say the bracha, they'll be too nervous that they might not fall asleep because they said the bracha, and then the bracha will be in vain. So I'm told that there's a group of a group called from the Brisk Yeshiva that they're too nervous, that if they say the bracha, then they'll be nervous. So if they don't say the bracha, they'll fall asleep. So because they're going to be too nervous that they might not fall asleep, they won't end up falling asleep. Therefore, they don't say this bracha. Of course, it's a very important bracha. People should say it. So it seems, but there are times when, like, that you're nervous, you're not going to fall asleep. For example, let's say you have a flight to catch in an hour. You got to leave. So you only have an hour to go to sleep. You're not sure if you're going to fall asleep or not. You have your alarm clock, so you'll wake up, but you're not 100% sure you're going to be able to fall asleep because you're too nervous. So I don't know if that would be a case where maybe a person wouldn't say it, but to not say it the whole lifetime because they're too nervous about it, that's seems wrong. But the thing is that a person should try to recite this bracha close to when they're about to fall asleep. And I guess in a few scenarios where they're not sure if they'll be able to fall asleep, that would be maybe a case where they wouldn't say it. So the continuation of the Gemara is what bracha do you say when you wake up? So the Gemara here now says, Ki misar, when a person wakes up, Omer, he says, Alikai, my God, neshama shenasata bi tahira, the soul that you put into me is pure. Ata yatzarta bi, you formed it in me. Ata nafachta bi, you blew it into me. Viata meshamra bekirbi, and you keep it inside me. So this is where we have the neshama that is kept. It talks about the neshama that Hashem keeps it inside me, and you are going to take it from me and return it to me. Take it from me means when a person passes away. And lachzir bilasad lavai means by tchias hamesim, by the resurrection of the dead, God will return it to me. Kol zman shanashama b'kirbi, as long as the soul is inside me, I thank you, Hashem, my God, the God of my father, that Ribain kol olamim, master of all the worlds, Adon kol hanashamis, the master of all the souls, Baruch ato Hashem, blessed you Hashem, machzir neshamis lefgarim mesim, who returns neshamis to pegarim mesim, to dead bodies. And what that means is that when you're sleeping, the person is partially in a 1/60th of death. So it's like Hashem is returning the soul to dead bodies. Now, so this is the special bracha we say. Of course, people maybe don't think about it so much, but it's a very special bracha because it acknowledges and thanks Hashem really for giving us our neshama. You know, how many people think about that? That Hashem gave us this soul, and that we have to be appreciative and thank Hashem for the neshama that's pure, without sin, and keeps in every day. He gives us, returns it to us. And then the Gemara goes through all the brachas now. Kishama kol tarnagoyla, when a person hears the sound of a tarnagoyla, of the rooster, lema, he should say the following bracha. Baruch asher nasan lasech vibina, blessed is Hashem who gave to the rooster understanding, lahavchin, to know the difference, bein yom uvein laila, between day and night. So the rooster is called the sechvi because it can tell. Sechvi is from the word seicha, able to see the difference. Yes, Robert.
Rabbi.
Yes.
When you get to be older, as some of us are, every morning you thank God for bringing your soul back when you open your eyes. So remember that, all right? Correct, okay, correct, okay. David? Huh? Right?
Yep. When you read the obituaries and you don't see your name there.
Right, exactly. But it is a blessing to wake up every morning to say that you're back, that Hashem is giving you your soul.
Exactly. Okay. So halavai by young people, they should feel the same way. You know, we should be so thankful.
Sometimes it takes age to realize that.
So the thing is, you know, whenever you wake up, you're always in a rush, you know, always waking up late. So people run through these brachas, which is really sad because they're such beautiful brachas. Each thing that Hashem gives us, and opening our eyes and sitting and standing and having clothing. And unfortunately,